Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of ESG Decoded. I am Yvonne Harris. I am your co-host for today and really excited to spend time with John Shegerian. Hi, John. How are you?
Well, I'm wonderful, and thank you for having me on today. It's really an honor.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here and spending time with ESG Decoded. John is the co-founder and chairman and CEO of ERI, which is the largest recycler of electronic waste in our country. John, I'll also share that you are a self-proclaimed serial social entrepreneur, and you're responsible for co-founding Homeboy Industries, financialaid.com, Engage, and other impactful organizations. So, John, it sounds like you are super busy. You've had a very successful career. So I know finding time with you is very, very hard to do, but we appreciate you creating time in your space.
Thank you very much. Again, it's just an honor to be here and share some of the journey with you.
So before we jump into ERI, I have to say, I am really intrigued by your previous businesses and that you started. Tell me about Homeboys.
Homeboys was just really a fascinating time in my life. I was very young. My wife and I and young children were living in Los Angeles, and we had to live through one of the most, I believe, horrific events ever to happen in U.S. history. It was then called the Rodney King riots. Unfortunately, it's now even been a little bit, how do I say this the right way? It's been retermed the L.A. riots. The bottom line is it was a bad time in American history for us to see everybody turning on each other, ethnicities, different races, and it just was it was extraordinarily sad, besides scary time. And after the riots, the days after, we had real estate in downtown Los Angeles that I was a part of. I worked for a company called the Yelling Company, a gentleman who's now been since deceased, a wonderful leader and visionary named Ira Yellen, and I was his number two person down there. And we had all this historic property, and what we found, Yvonne, is a lot of people vacated the downtown area. They didn't really want to be there because that's really ground zero of where the riots started, down by City Hall and by police headquarters and by the courthouse. And that's where our property was. And so we had the Grand Central Market in downtown Los Angeles, and there was a wonderful tortilleria. And the owners, a couple of days after the riots, gave me the keys and said, "We don't want to live in LA. My wife and I are moving out of LA. Here's the keys." I said, "But it's all brand new equipment and you have a lease." And he goes, "We're leaving. Good luck. We're going to be living in another country." And so I called up this guy named Father Greg Boyle, who I'd seen on 60 Minutes. There was no internet, so I had seen him on 60 Minutes. But back then is how we got our news, and 60 Minutes was one of the great platforms of those days. And I'd seen he was doing some wonderful stuff with these gang members or potential gang members or ex-gang members in East LA. Out of the Dolores Mission, which was the poorest parish in East LA. And Father Greg Boyle started something called Proyecto Pastoral, which meant he wanted to basically, instead of letting these kids become involved with gangs, which was basically, he felt, and I believe he was absolutely right and still is right, basically a substitute for the breakdown of the American family, giving them a structure to be at every day. He said, if I give them a job, nothing stops a bullet faster than a job. And he was right then, and he's right today, by the way. And I called him up. I said, "Come on over to the market." He says, "Why?" I said, "Just please come." We had a cup of coffee. I showed him the tortilleria. And literally in a couple-hour conversation, we decided we're going to take his young kids. We're going to put them to work there. He said, "What are we going to call it?" I said, "What do you call your kids in East LA?" He says, "I call them homeboys and homegirls." I said, "That's the name, Homeboy Tortillas." So we started it as Homeboy Tortillas. And Father Greg Boyle assigned a couple of his pastors from his parish to work with us. And I was working with them, with some of the board members from the parish that he had put together. And he then went on a mission, a Jesuit mission. And so I was running sort of point with these other pastors and with these young, great people. And it changed our life. Basically, these young people proved to us how much they really wanted this opportunity to work. I was very lucky. There was a young woman named Sylvia Lopez, who was a new reporter in town, who went to USC with my wife, and she was a very young reporter, and I asked her to do a story on it, and she got permission from her staff at KCAL in Los Angeles. She came and did a story, and LA fell in love with these kids, and these kids fell in love with LA. And then CNN came out and did a story because they saw the KCAL story. That's how they used to source their stories. And it's sort of history from there. Hollywood started writing checks, and it became Homeboy Industries, so we could go do more businesses. Father Greg Boyle came back from his mission, or whatever it's called, that he had to go on, and we were off to the races. And Father Greg Boyle took it back over and has done a brilliant job the last 20 years or so, or 30 years now, running the whole thing. And it's just been an incredible ride. And Greg is still a friend, Father Greg Boyle, and it just changed my wife's life and my life, in that we decided then we never want to do business anymore just to make money, which is wonderful. We want to do business to make money, but also to make a difference as well. So every business that we touch thereafter, financialaid.com, Engage, ERI, all have a capital bottom line and a social bottom line as well.
That what you just shared is so inspiring in so many different ways. I think I'm going to work backwards. John, I just appreciate the reminder that you can do something that you're passionate about, that changes lives, and still make money.
That's right.
And still meet financial objectives. Many of us maybe were socialized or grew up thinking it's a choice. You do one or the other. But I think it's very important, especially in the space of ESG and the topics that we're going to discuss today, that it doesn't have to be an either or.
It's really true. And Yvonne, people come to me all the time, young people especially, go, how'd you do this? Why'd you do that? And they really have great intentions. They want to do something to make an impact more than ever before. It's not all about, remember, I'm a child of the greed is good era. Gordon Gekko, greed is good. And the bottom line is that whole mentality's changed, and there's a new generation of people who really want to make a difference, who really want to make an impact. It's not about the money for them. It's not about greed is good. In fact, it's almost opposite. But like I tell them, the name of your podcast is ESG Decoded, Business and Sustainability. And so the bottom line is, you have to create a sustainable business to be able to go out and save the world. It's got to make a profit. You got to have money to keep the lights on, to pay your employees, so you could create a shared mission. And so keeping that in and creating the right balance of profitability with sustainability, and then also creating a mission, whatever your mission is that you want to accomplish, the social side of it, all can work together and work hand in hand.
I know we're here to talk primarily about ERI, but John, I want to spend just a few more moments on the topic of Homeboy Industries.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Rodney King incident was not a one and done, was not an isolated incident. And as we even just reflect back a few years to the social justice issues of 2020, the death of George Floyd, we still see the need for a myriad of things, but just tying to the investment in community and the work of Homeboy Industries. How are you sharing the model of Homeboy Industries in other communities throughout the country that desperately need it as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. Father Greg Boyle's been the one who's done that. And when I was with him last, I basically was with him at an event here in Fresno, actually, California, where I live now and where ERI is headquartered out of. And we were chatting about that before the event. And I said, Greg, I wish the world had 1,000 of you, because we need 1,000 of you to do what you do. And we were talking about the democratization of Homeboy, not only across America, but across the world. And he explained to me, even though the name, it's not like McDonald's where the name Homeboy was trademarked and then he licensed it out for others to use. There's hundreds of paradigms that have been out to visit with Greg and have followed the paradigm of nothing stops a bullet faster than a job, not only in the United States, Yvonne, the good news is, but around the world. It still doesn't take away my initial comment that the world really needs 1,000 of Greg's, because it's still not enough. Because as you and I know, going back to the bookending Rodney King with George Floyd, my gosh, I'm 60 now, and I thought we'd be so much further along in this country in racial harmony, ethnic harmony, gender harmony, and we still have so far to go. And it's not discouraging, so to say. I'm disappointed. I'm not defeated. And I think we still can all continue to do so much more on getting us further down the road on harmonizing gender equality, ethnic equality, racial equality. We know there's a great need, and there's more that we could do together. And it's going to take all of us to get us there.
And there's so many of us trying, John, and I know you've been such an inspiration in your community, and thanks to the entire team at Homeboy Industries. I know it's just not one person, right? It's a collective vision. But let me ask you, you're so passionate about that work, you're making such impact. Yeah. What led you to have other innovation and focus on electronic waste? Like what was the impetus for that shift? Yeah,
people ask me all the time, financialaid.com, Engage, ERI. Let's just take, let's take them all. So people say, how do you come up with what you're going to do next? And the bottom line is this, Yvonne, there's got to be a void in the marketplace. Number one, there's got to be white space. It's not being done by somebody else. Or if it is, it's not being done well. Number two, you got to be able to test it small and realize is it going to work small, and then it's also you have to then do the math and do it right and really do it in a self-reflective way where you're being honest with yourself. Can you grow it and commercialize this? Is it scalable? Number three, is there a marketplace for it? Is it you're just in love with this because you're really excited about it yourself and this is very personal to you? Or is there others that are like you that have the same need? And number four, is it personal to you? Because yes, there's lots of white space. And folks like me who are serial entrepreneurs walk around seeing lots of white space out there. Every day I see white space. But if it's not personal to me, I'm not going to do it. Why? Because everything we do, no matter what the entrepreneur or budding entrepreneur or wannabe entrepreneur that listens to your show or is thinking of starting a business, if what they're about to do or undertake is not personal to them, it's not going to work. And here's a simple reason why. The world is tough. The world is a tough place. It's business and trying to get a brand out there is harder than ever in terms of getting any visibility in the cacophony of information glut that we have, that we all are inundated with every day. And if it's not personal to you, when the days get tough and long and lonely, and I say lonely, I mean soul-crushing lonely, you're not going to get through at all. It's just too hard to get through if it's not personal to you, and if you really don't care all that much about it. So it's got to be personal. Besides the white space, it's got to be commercializable, and you have to see some foreseeable marketplace out there, and then that's when the endeavor begins. So financial aid, we saw it. We democratized the student lending world, which was offline prior to us ever getting into it. We got into it in 98, the year Google was founded. So that's literally beginnings of times of the internet. So we put it online. We made all the mistakes we can make along the way, but it worked because the world was dying for this, to take a very clunky, paper-laden, in-person process that was being done historically through mail and in person on campuses across America, and we put it online. And also, the anonymity of the internet made it also very successful, because when we were polling young kids after they used our service as to why they liked and used our service, they were quite embarrassed that their parents had bought extra boats and extra homes and spent a lot of money at a casino or at other places, but hadn't saved enough money for them to go to get their university education. So the embarrassment of that process in person or on campus was now removed to the internet, and that also worked in our favor. And financial aid became a breakout success in the dot-com crash of 98, 99, and 2000, and we eventually sold it off to a very, very large banking concern called CIT, EDLG, and then CIT. And but we got to democratize the student lending world and do something no one had ever done before and became very disruptive. But it was very personal to us. Number two, same thing with Engage in terms of the speakers marketplace, putting on celebrity and athlete speakers onto automated and democratized platform where people can hire speakers both online and in person to come and speak at their events using our technology. And then ERI, my dad was one of the first people to bring windmills to America back in 1978. He created a company called Windmaster. And I was working with my dad at that point. I was a teenager working with the group from Belgium that helped bring those windmills over and created these windmills, and was very excited about what he was doing, learned a lot about alternative energy. And so when my wife and I had this opportunity to partner with our two great partners, Aaron Blum and Kevin Dillon, postfinancialaid.com, to create and professionalize the e-waste recycling process and industry, we were really excited to do so because e-waste was something, it was the fastest growing solid waste stream in the world, Yvonne, back in 2002, 3, and 4. It's still the fastest growing solid waste stream, but now we have a solution, and there's others that have followed us. And so there's great solutions around the United States and great solutions around the world now that can help people with all their old electronics. And so we're really proud of what we've built here together.
Tell us more about the solutions, because I imagine when you got into the industry, it's very different than it is today. So kind of just take us through the evolutionary journey of e-waste.
Thank you. First, it was, before we got into it, it was the dark side of the technological revolution. So it was stuff that no one had planned for. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and all those other great folks, those other visionaries and mavericks and entrepreneurs, they created products and they created services that, that made the world a better, more connected place. And that was their vision, and a cooler place, both in our personal and our business lives. But they never dreamed that their electronics, when they came to an end of life, were going to then become big pollutants. So when you keep this stuff above ground and you recycle it appropriately and break it down into its components, steel, aluminum, copper, gold, shredded plastic, and all the submetals, palladium, cobalt, nickel, lithium ion, and you're able to get these back to smelters, it goes back into the circular economy. It's the greatest circular economy story out there. So probably if last month we recycled 15 million pounds of electronic waste at our 9 facilities across America, maybe 2 or 3% of that went to a hazardous waste landfill. The rest, all those materials, went back into the circular economy. And if we're now all believe that this unstoppable and undeniable trend of moving from a linear to circular economy is afoot and is not going to go away, it's only going to continue to grow. Electronic waste is leading the charge on that when done correctly, when done responsibly. And that's the great story that we've got now. We started doing this all manually, Yvonne. When we started this, it looked sort of like the Flintstones, frankly speaking. We then developed the world's largest e-waste shredder in 2008 and 2009. And then we added on robotics and AI, and we continue to add on robotics and AI in 2023. And we're the most sophisticated when it comes to robotics, AI, and automation in the United States and around the world. So that's what we pride ourselves on: continuous improvement, continuous innovation, and that's how we've grown this company successfully.
So, John, a couple of things jump out to me in what you just shared. Let me start with the first one. Sure. Again, going to the spirit of the podcast, ESG Decoded. Sure. Decode for us the circular economy as it relates to e-waste.
Great question. So circular economy is basically the replacement of the linear economy. The linear economy is what we all grew up in. We use things once, out into the trash, It goes into the big landfills that we dug in America, and basically it's one and done. It's really a one and done economy. The circular economy means that there's massive reuse. You put things back into the economy. So for instance, if we have an old cell phone that if people want to buy a new one, but their old one is still very usable. So it comes back to a company like ours. We fix it up. We wipe all the data, we retest it, we rebox it, we resell it. There's a wonderful secondary and tertiary market for reselling old electronics, and that's a huge part of our business as well. So circular economy when it comes to electronics means reuse is number one. Number two, when it comes to all the commodities I just mentioned, the steel, the plastic, the copper, the aluminum, the gold, the silver, the lead, the palladium, all those materials are highly recyclable. For instance, aluminum is called the infinite recyclable because it can be recycled thousands of times. Your old Coke can or Pepsi can could go and be reused 1,000 times again once we drink the soda out of it. That's the beauty of gold and of steel and of aluminum and copper. It can be always recycled over and over again instead of going into a landfill.
So you started with an electronic device that is the most important device to billions of people, the cell phone.
Right.
John, what if there's some people who are not recycling their cell phones out of concern of privacy and things not being wiped? What level of confidence do you have that when someone's turning that in, that they can rest assured that their personal information is leaving that device?
If it comes to us, we know it's going to be gone. But the truth be known is we only get a small portion of everything that's being responsibly recycled. So you got to be really careful. The issue, since we've started this company, Yvonne, 21 years ago now, cybersecurity has become part of our vernacular and our lexicon. And so cybersecurity, to all of your listeners, just all of us really, means that we've got to protect our homes and our families, besides the businesses or organizations we work for. There's no reason not to be very vigilant to how you dispose of your old electronics. So, for instance, great retailers that do take back, Best Buy and Staples, for instance, have drop off and take back for old cell phones. They use responsible recyclers. We're the vendor of choice that those brands use. They have other vendors as well, but they vet those vendors very carefully and make sure that they're using all the right protocols to protect the consumer's devices and the data that's contained therein. So protecting your home, protecting your assets, protecting your family, protecting the organization that you work for or with is very important to think about the data that's contained in your old electronics and making sure it's going to a responsible recycler, whether you're sitting in Mumbai, Shanghai, Dubai, New York, LA, or every city in between around the world. There's responsible recyclers within a 300 to 500 mile radius of you that you could get your old electronics to, or will be happy to pick them up.
So we talked through the lens of personal responsibility, I'll call it. But John, now take us back up to organizations and companies and corporations. Give us some tangible actions that we could be taking to become more responsible in our electronic waste. And then I'm going to connect to that because measurement's important, right?
Sure.
If you don't measure it, it doesn't get done.
That's right.
What are some best practice measurements in the space of e-waste?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, first of all, as you and I both know, Yvonne, in every boardroom across the United States and around the world now, two of the hottest topics, if not the two hottest trends and topics, are ESG and cybersecurity. So the cool news is that electronics can be bundled up as a solution, one of the solutions for both of them. Why? When it comes to cybersecurity, of course, there's many, let's just call it 50 to 100 amazing software platforms that cybersecurity experts, CISOs, chief information security officers from corporations or organizations can engage with to help protect their organization or corporation. But it's not going to do that much good to protect that organization if they close the front door but leave the back door open by getting rid of their old electronics and not taking unbelievable care of how they choose that vendor. So choosing that vendor responsibly means making sure they have the right certifications on the environmental side include either what is called R2, or it's called e-stewards. So there's two different organizations. ERI happens to have both certifications, but if your recycler has one or the other, they're going to be in good shape. That's number one. On the security side, they should be NACD certified, National Association of Information Destruction. It was originally created for the paper shredding industry to destroy data on paper, but it also has been applied now to the electronic waste industry to destroy data that's contained in old electronics. So they should be NACD certified as well. ERI went a little bit beyond. We're the only company in the world that's SOC 2 certified in recycling, because that gives extra confidence and protection to any of the big brands and little brands that we are taking care of their data, and they know that we've really gone out of our way and we think about it all the time. When it comes to the ESG side of it, here's really the good news. When you're taking care of your cyber side of your business and making sure you responsibly destroy all the old electronics when they come to their end of life, and also destroying the data that's contained therein, if you're using a responsible recycler on the ESG side, you will not only get a certificate of destruction, but one of the things that ERI creates for all of our clients, whether it's on a per job basis, on a quarterly basis, on an annual basis, is an impact report. So we can actually create an impact report and show the carbon emissions or water savings or whatever algorithm that company or organization needs to show their C-suite, their board of directors, their analysts, their constituents that use their services. Every company now is searching for new ways to get ESG credit. By responsibly recycling your old electronics, there's huge ESG credits you can get, because there's huge carbon emission offsets, because you're recycling really stuff that goes right back into the circular economy, and there's a huge energy savings. I'll give you an example. When you recycle aluminum, as opposed to mining it from the ground, out of the raw materials out of the ground, there's over 92% energy savings right there. And all the metals have those kind of energy savings, not as high as 90, they'll be in the 70s and 80s. Those are little things that most people don't understand. There's huge energy savings when you responsibly recycle old material. We're talking about electronics today, but even other things as well. When it comes to electronics, the energy savings is off the chart. And you're going to get an impact report from a responsible recycler and be able to take credit for that, put it in your impact report, your annual report, and ESG report. And all the corporations we're working with love it, and they're really using it to their advantage now.
Well, and a lot of what you just described will be aha moments for many of our listeners. And they're things that are currently happening, but we just may not be as attuned to or as connected to. But John, even take us a little bit in the future. What's on the horizon? What do you see coming in the space of e-waste that we can start preparing for?
Yeah, it's a great question. I believe we need more. So here's the deal, Yvonne. We've come far, but not far enough. According to the United Nations, only 17% of all electronics being used on this planet are being responsibly recycled when they come to their end of life. So I believe with great people like you that are spreading the word about how responsible recycling should and could be done, we're going to get more people on board responsibly recycling electronics. Number two, in America, in the United States, according to the EPA, the number is closer to 12%. So the delta of opportunity in the United States is 88, around the world is 83. So we're going to get more people involved. Plus, more people who are responsible recyclers in all industries realize now that one of the trademarks or pillars of good and successful recycling programs is this: making it convenient for the consumer, making it convenient. So now, over the last 10 years, we've created a box program so we can ship people boxes. They can fill them up at their own convenience. There are 20 different sizes that we have of boxes, and they can return them, print the label that we provide for them, either through UPS or FedEx, and then they can ship it back to one of our 9 facilities. And other recyclers are following that paradigm as well, not only in the United States, but around the world. So making responsible recycling of old electronics more convenient vis-a-vis the box method, which we're all now accustomed to getting Amazon and other great brand boxes at home. we could do the same with recycling. Ship the box to your home or small business or a large business. You could fill it up at your own convenience on your own timeline and then ship it back to one of our facilities. And it can all be responsibly handled. You don't have to get in the car. You don't have to increase the carbon footprint in any way, shape, or form, nor do you have to even drive it to a store. So there's all sorts of new technologies that are empowering and growing the footprint for responsible electronic waste recycling, not only in the United States, but around the world.
I may go a little bit off the beaten path with this one, John, but would love to hear your opinion. I know that you're here telling us how to recycle responsibly,
Yeah.
but do you feel like we're just over consuming electronics? Like, do we need a new phone every year? Like, I don't know. Again, I may be going, down a rabbit hole that we just don't have time to discuss, but I just wonder if that's a part of this conversation that we just don't have.
It probably is. Probably using less would be more for all of us. I'm guilty as anybody, and I'm in the industry. And I get when a new phone comes out, I'll get the new phone. When a new iPad comes out, I'll get it. I love technology. I love the convenience of it. Now I'm lucky because I have the ability to responsibly recycle right down the hole from me all our old electronics. But the truth known is we all should be using less. So the answer is yes, Yvonne. But if we're going to live in the conspicuous consumption society that we've created, not only in the United States, but around the world, the nice thing to know is that there's a secondary and tertiary market for all our old electronics, and they can be reused not only in the United States in the secondary or tertiary market, but in other parts of the world as well. So if we get our old products at least into the hands of responsible recyclers, they can be reused. And that's the good news. Don't just put your old cell phones in a desk or in your attic or in a closet. Same thing goes with old television sets, old laptops, anything else you have. Get it out. Get your space back. Let's get the stuff back into the circular economy. And I think that will really go a long way. But yes, to your answer, I think we all could be using less. And I'll start with me being as one of the guilty parties of consuming too much.
There are so many of us that are in that category. Another different question, John, and thank you so much for humoring me today. I'm just so excited about this topic.
Yeah.
But as we talk about the circular economy and getting the products recycled and back out there in a second or third life, do you have any collaborative partnerships that are getting like cell phones and laptops and other things into disadvantaged communities or communities that really need these items?
We do. It's been less because of the cybersecurity and the data risk issues. It's been less than it was 10 or 15 years ago. But yes, we do have some programs like that where there's donations that go on, and we support some of the programs of some of our customers. So the answer is yes, but it's less than it used to be 10 or 15 years ago because of the data risks, unfortunately.
Okay. It's good to know that it is happening on some level.
It is. And there's great organizations out there that are doing great things. And we support them in terms of wiping devices so they can ship them off to areas in great need. And again, most of these cell phones and laptops and tablets are built unbelievably strong, way beyond our typical use in the United States, where we want to buy something new or so. So they really do have a great afterlife in the secondary or tertiary market, and there's great need for them all over the world.
Yeah, I'm glad that work is happening. And it just dawned on me, John, that I did not remember to introduce you as an author at the beginning.
Yeah.
And you do have a book out called The Insecurity of Everything. Yeah. Tell our listeners about that book.
Yeah, we wrote that during COVID, my partners and I. So we're all co-authors on it. It was written just basically to go over the stuff that you and I talked about today, Yvonne, and go more forensically into the real risks of data security in your old electronics, and how we give some examples in there of some things that have really been catastrophic events for organizations. And we explain to people what organizations they have to look out for in terms of National Association of Information Destruction, SOC 2, and how to protect themselves in a better way. And we didn't write it to make money. We just wrote it as an educational piece. And I'll tell you, anybody who writes to you after the show, that hears this show, that wants a copy of the book, you send me their names and addresses, Yvonne, and I'm happy to send them their own free copy of that book, because it can help protect them from anything bad happening to their friends, family, or other people that they're involved with, and it will protect them from themselves, from putting their data in the wrong people's hands.
That is such a generous offer, John. Thank you so much. And you know what? I'm not even surprised that you extended that offer. That's who you are. I've just met you for the first time, but I can tell that you are a very generous spirit, and I appreciate that on behalf of our listeners. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, we have had great time. As you can tell, I can continue on this topic, but could I just ask for a coupon, John, to bring you back and get some updates from you real soon?
Anytime. I'd love to come back on, Yvonne, to your great podcast, and any way I could help support your great work. We're very excited about being here today and being able to share the word about responsible e-waste recycling. And I thank you for all the great work you're doing on ESG and sustainability topics. They're some of the most important topics on the planet today. And we're only going to move forward with great people like you sharing inspirational stories.
Thank you for your kind words. And again, John, thank you for your time.